You're listening to the Recovered Life Show.
That leads me into this whole dry January thing, Kristina. I found this article. I stumbled upon this article, and I'm going to open it up here on screen so people can see it because I think it's worth a discussion here. And it is all about it's all about dry January. It says coming off dry January, stay sober curious in February. And
Yay.
yay, it's from the News Herald, right?
Okay.
It's from the News Herald. And the interesting thing about this, why I really found this to be such an interesting article is Sarah O'Brien, who doesn't really say, right, whether she's sober or not.
No, she doesn't say that, but there's you have to wonder with some of the things that she suggested. You really do. So I know she's not saying everybody has to get sober, and I like that.
She's not. But what's interesting about this is I have to tell you something. This whole sober curious movement, Kristina.
Right.
This whole thing and this whole dry January, I have mixed feelings about this. You know,
I know you do.
We differ on this.
Yes, we do. Yes, we have a different opinion. I think in the long run, it's so awesome to see this in mainstream. And it's so nice to see, the general mass picking up this idea that perhaps we need to look at our relationship with alcohol. And if it's on the newspaper and we're talking about it and it becomes more mainstream, less shame happens around if you have a problem with drinking. I'm not so interested in the label. For me, it's really easy to call myself an alcoholic because I know that that's how I drink. But being an interventionist, I also know that you don't have to hit that bottom. And some people could possibly get sober from this or prevent themselves from maybe moving forward into this situation. So I think it's great.
Okay, I'm agreeing with you on this. I definitely am agreeing with you on this. Although I have to put a big but in there.
Yeah,
big
caveat.
B-U-T, okay? I think this is also sometimes a little potentially dangerous to people who do have addiction problems, okay? Thinking that somehow they're going to be able to stop to them for a month and just to be able to come back and everything is going to be fine. Everything is going to be fine, right? And I think in some ways it prolongs people from really kind of taking action to get sober. Now, I might be wrong. So I see the good part that you're seeing as well, that, look, it brings awareness. So
right.
Not everybody drinks.
Not everybody
drinks and uses
I
drugs.
didn't know that when I first got sober. I had no idea that there was huge groups of people and that there were these amazing supportive communities, which she also covers in the actual article. I like that she is asking the question that if you are having obsessive thoughts, or perhaps you're noticing there's a difference between you and others, what you're thinking about, like, I cannot wait until February 1st comes, I'm going to get smashed. I like that she brings up those questions in black and white for people to look at. And she does talk about getting involved with a support group, that perhaps it's a lifestyle support group or it's a 12-step group like I came through, where we are really hitting the problem head on. And I like us having the conversation totally beforehand.
Okay, I'm with it. And, one of the things that she points out here, I'm just going to read this. It says, mentally and emotionally, cutting back on alcohol typically leads to better moods. Alcohol is a depressant, which is why you might feel down after drinking. Additionally, alcohol can affect the levels of serotonin and other neurotransmitters in the brain and worsen anxiety. But you're right. She talks about the health. This is a lot about the health benefits.
And there's so many
of not
there
drinking.
Really are.
And no, there really is. And I think, but let's be honest here. Do you think people that have addiction problems worry about the health benefits?
I know I didn't.
Exactly. I know I didn't either. Didn't either.
But I do think that this could be perhaps what they call a gray area drinker who isn't realizing, as well as I do, that we have a genetic component as well as a lifestyle component to being having a problem with substance or having a substance abuse disorder. And only 50% of people actually have the genetic code. So perhaps this is a little eye opener for the other 50%. No, I didn't care about my health at all, obviously. But I also think there's so much out there that celebrates the drinking culture that it's really nice to see something coming around and having these trends where we actually say, no, you could live a life without that. It isn't all just have fun. We just finished the Super Bowl, and how many millions of dollars go into that
Yes.
advertising. And for somebody who has a substance abuse problem like me, it's a lie. So I like it personally.
So here's one thing, and I'm in agreement on a couple things here with you.
Okay.
One thing is, like, when I first got sober, in the early 90s, I didn't know anyone who was sober.
Right.
I'd never
Exactly.
heard of people that I didn't even know it was possible that people live sober. Like, I didn't even think that was a thing.
Right.
I thought everybody drank.
Me
Right
too.
now, partially that just has to show you that, like, I was wrapped up in alcoholism.
Yes.
Right. But two, the awareness just wasn't there.
It isn't.
It wasn't there. Let's be honest, right?
No, it
The
wasn't.
awareness wasn't there. And this is good. And I think this whole gray area drinker, and I think the whole thing with gray area drinking is, have they crossed the line? Have they not crossed the line? Now,
Right.
we know through 12 steps and just data from us living sober,
Yes.
us being able to see it. There are people who have addiction problems and might be preconditioned to alcoholism, but
Sure.
have not crossed the line.
Right.
And then there's people who have crossed the line and they can never get back. Right.
So true.
So I do think that maybe in some way that this actually could prevent people from, it's like, hey, you know what? Maybe I'm about ready to cross the line.
Right.
No, I don't think anyone knows where that line is, right? But I'm about ready to cross, but I don't now, maybe because I have awareness, hey, this doesn't work for me, and I'm just going to set this down.
I have to believe people like that exist because I've heard stories about that. Now, for me, there was no imaginary line. I want to make that clear. I crossed it the first time that alcohol, quote, worked. I totally did, and didn't have any option to get, well, I had options. I could have kept drinking, but I didn't have any option for me to live my life and with alcohol. So I'm saying this based on what I've heard, but I do believe there are people out there that can stop drinking or slow it down. It never would have worked for me. So if anybody's out there and you're struggling or having these obsessive thoughts, I want you to pay attention to them because they are really important, just like she said in the article. And get in with the support group and explore. I like the idea of Sober Curious too, because I think that the less shame we have around this, the better it is for everyone involved. So I'm all for Dry January. I'm all for staying sober curious. And I really am for the communities that are talking about this. I believe that's important.
Yes. I think the discussion is the more valuable part of this, whether somebody decides, whether it's like a soccer mom or soccer dad in Cleveland that decide that they're gonna, wow, I'm just gonna stay sober for a month, and maybe not have that beer on the weekend or that glass of wine, and just to bring awareness to it. Hey, the more the merrier. I think that discussion is great, but I going back, the whole thing is, does it stop addiction? Does it stop? And it's interesting. I don't think it does, to be honest with you. I think actually it sometimes could trick people who kind of already know deep down inside that they're maybe an alcoholic or drug addict.
True.
And they're going to use this to say, see, I was able to make it, a week into Dry January or whatever. And I just chose not to drink. Right. Yeah. Or to drink, and so I think, and it's interesting because we put a poll up on the Recovered Life.
Okay. What did it say?
This is interesting. We asked people, we said, hey, does this work? Do you think that this is like preventing addiction at all? And we put it up this morning, and I'm going to, while we talk here, I'm going to take a look and see what the results were. But people were starting to vote right away.
Of course.
Because I think people have really strong opinions about
Absolutely. This. And if you're somebody like me who has gotten so many gifts from sobriety, most of the time we are really passionate about other people being able to receive those gifts too. I mean, that's what the Recovered Life show is about, is learning how to live that really good life without needing to numb. And I would say our entire world is in a position where they want to numb. And so having these conversations to say, wow, am I doing this? Am I moving forward? Is very, very important.
Well, this is funny. We actually asked the people on Recovered Life, and guys, if you are listening to this on a podcast and you can't see the graphic, you can go to Recovered Life and join up totally for free and cast your vote as well. It says, do you think January helps prevent drug and alcohol abuse? You're gonna love this. 0% said yes. 0. Now, these are all people in recovery.
Sure.
50% of the people said possibly it could.
Yes.
And 50% of the people said no.
Now, see, I was in the 50% of possibly it could at least plant the seed. And I think that's really, really good.
So what we know is that 50% of the people who voted here on Recovered Life are optimists and 50% are pessimists.
I didn't say that. You're putting words in my mouth. I didn't say that. Just some of us may be a little more open. I don't know. I go back to what I said earlier, which is when you have such a beautiful transformation like I did, and you know that the life I'm living in the last 25 years would not be anything like it is now, unless I had made this decision, then more than anything, I want people to have that option. I want them to know that it's out there. I really, really do.
Keep the conversation going. Join Recovered Life, a community of like-minded people who are looking to live their best recovered lives. Membership is free, and you can apply at recoveredlife.us.